So, hello everybody. We are back to continue our chat on puppies. So I am very pleased to welcome Pauline Whittaker to chat all about puppies, and a little follow-up, because since we chatted last, you have brought in a new member to your family, little Moss.
I have, yeah. And I can't believe it's been about 12 weeks already since he arrived. I don't know where those 3 months have gone. But yes, little Moss, black and white with one blue eye, Border Collie, from a local breeder, an ISDS registered working sheepdog. And he's absolutely gorgeous.
Fantastic. And Sparkles is now 7 months. I can't believe that
Wow.
that time has gone so quickly. So let's talk a little bit about Moss. Is he what you expected? Have you had to do anything differently from what you expected? Tell us all about it.
Yeah, that's a really interesting question, because I don't know that I had set expectations. I really don't. This is the first puppy I've had that hasn't been a rescue for 20 years. So it almost in some ways that worried me, because it's the kind of the pressure to get everything right with a dog who's just perfect when he's given to me. So the expectations perhaps on myself were higher than they were on what I expected of him. But he has just been a delight. He really has. He's more than sort of gone past my expectations. We have developed a beautiful little bond I'm very happy about. And what have I had to adjust? Well, lots of things probably, but lots of little things, but not really an adjustment of expectations. I'm allowing how we work together in our relationship just to evolve quite organically. So it's just really fun.
Right. And what about your other dogs? Because obviously you have other dogs to introduce him to. Has he fitted straight into a household? Have you had to integrate more slowly with some than others? How's that all gone?
Yeah, so I was very careful about how I set things up to start with. Lots of management in place, not allowing him to either be overwhelmed or to put himself into situations where he might get himself into trouble, or even overwhelm them, because he came from a setup where he was very used to interacting with adult dogs, as well as the pups. So he came in very, very confidently. The one dog I thought who would have the most difficulty is little Hope. She was very bonded with Maddie, who I don't have anymore, and had become a little bit withdrawn over the last sort of 6 months. However, she is the one who has bonded with Moss the most, and right from the beginning they have been playing, and she just loved him. And I would say that as a general rule, she isn't that fond of puppies, so it just goes to show how our expectations are, it can just really be different when it comes to it. Sybil the terrier just decided that he was just something really fun to play with, so she plays in her terrier fashion with him, and he has been able to rise up and meet that, luckily. And Tessa, my blue male border collie, she's found it more difficult because Tessa likes order. She likes everything to be in a certain way. She is, not to use human terms, but the control freak of the bunch. She really likes everyone to kind of just behave in a certain way. And of course, puppies don't adhere to that. But he has learned to kind of squirm his way into her affections. And as he gets bigger and less puppy-like, I know that they're going to get on well. She likes playing with him outside. She likes to race him and body bash him, and she encourages that. But inside, if he gets a little bit too close, then she will give him a little look, and he knows just when to back away.
Oh, bless him. So that's absolutely brilliant. Mine took time to adjust, but actually Bo, who I thought would bond with Sparkles the soonest, actually took the longest. So yeah, just goes to show, doesn't it? It can be different with them, but they're all fine now. And yeah, time is a really important thing to give them, isn't it, with introductions?
Absolutely.
I tend to think
absolutely, and coming down to that management again as well. So Tessa always has her own space if she doesn't want to be around him. So I think that's really important.
Yeah. So what are your aims with him? Obviously, we've got a whole new year coming up ahead of us. Have you got goals set for him? What is his future going to look like?
Yeah, so I was really open-minded about it when I got him. I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do. I was considering going back towards agility. Scent work is my main passion, and he was always going to be involved in that. But I started doing some searching with him early on, and that sounds like it's quite serious, but when I talk about searching, I just mean he's searching for his toys. So he's just got a Kong on a rope, and he's searching for that in lots of fun environments, and he loves it. He just absolutely loves it. And what I like about scent work, for me, and it's a personal thing, and it's doesn't say anything negative about agility, but I like the calmness and control I get with my dogs from scent work, and he already has that. So yes, my aims are scent work, but I'm not rushing it. We're building good, strong, solid foundations, and just gonna take it slowly. And with scent work, I'm looking for real confidence in lots of a variety of environments, and the ability to block out distractions. I mean, we want this with all dog sports, and we want this with all our pet dogs anyway, don't we? But actually doing scent work in different environments is increasing his general environmental confidence anyway. So the two are kind of going hand in hand.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. I've fairly, when I say I'm fairly new to scent work, as in I've done courses on it, but it was never really my bag as such. So it was more the agility and the obedience. And then obviously for obedience that I've been learning, I've had to learn scent work, but in a different way than what I learnt it originally. So yeah, been on quite a journey with our scent work with Bo, and Poppy has got quite a nose on her. So it's going to be good for her because she's still, what's the best word? Excitable, independent, but she's a cracking little dog. You know, when she arrived, she was really quite difficult and bitey and angry. Yes, we haven't done much searching with her yet, but you can just see her nose is really active. So I don't want to start it and do it wrong, because I did this with Bo, with certain things when I went to the obedience training. Because of some other training that I'd done for other things, it went against what I needed to teach in the obedience. So I want to, with her, try and withhold doing stuff until I know how to do it correctly for those activities. So I don't then have to change what I'm doing, if that makes sense. So yeah.
It's easy to want to kind of rush ahead with everything, isn't it? So it's and it's, you know, as they're going through, you know, both our puppies are still going through developmental stages. So always keeping that in mind and not kind of pushing them is so important, isn't it?
Yeah, she's so Sparkles is 7 months. So something else I was going to ask you is, you know, obviously yours isn't quite at adolescence yet, mine's just, you know, teetering into it. How do you deal with adolescence? Because I previous to Bo, all of my dogs have been real adolescents. And I can remember saying to Bo's breeder, oh, adolescence. And he said to me, oh yeah, he says, you know, my dogs tend to have a bad week and then that's it. And I'm like, oh, this might be different. And I have to say, Bo was no difference all the way through. He was an absolute joy. Sparkles has been, I hate referring to her as a difficult puppy, but, you know, we've had a lot of challenges already. So I'm sort of hoping that actually we've got enough foundations in place that we can navigate through adolescence. But I'm definitely going to be keeping a real eye for distraction, less focus on me because she's so outward focused and independent. So that recall is definitely going to be something that we'll be working on in our relationship throughout adolescence. And I don't know about you, but I think if you've already mentioned about relationship, if we can get that strong relationship, then we can override a lot of the challenges that to us. But, you know, what are your thoughts on adolescence?
Well, interestingly, most of my rescue dogs came to me as adolescents. So I've had, and they've all come with problems at that time. So I've dealt with a multitude of problems through adolescence. I would love it if it's a week long, the difficult stage. That sounds amazing. The likelihood of that, I know, is unrealistic. I don't have concerns about it, as in I've got a big toolbox of things I've learnt with all the other dogs and the knowledge I have anyway. I suppose I have a certain amount of just intrepidation of just wondering, I don't want things to go wrong. I want to protect this puppy. He's so perfect. And I don't need him to be perfect. He can be who he is, but I just don't, I don't want anything to go wrong. So I kind of want to wrap him up in a bit of sort of bubble wrap at the moment and just make sure nothing bad happens. But dealing with it, I suppose I will deal with things as they come along. I have done quite a lot of environmental exposure with him. I have allowed him to have lovely positive interactions with other dogs, lots of interactions with people, as we would expect, whilst maintaining relationship and not allowing that to become sort of too over the top or too over enthusiastic. But I'm likely to rein that back in. I will be working much more on the focus on me around those distractions, interactions with dogs that I know he's familiar with anyway. If it's dogs that we meet out and about, it's much more likely to be that I will perhaps avoid, or if I think it looks like a super friendly, similar age dog, maybe check with the owners that their dog is sociable with youngsters, and you can have an interaction there. But I'm looking more for the fact that he'll come away when he's called, and it doesn't escalate into just sort of crazy young dog behavior. But at the moment, the foundations feel like they're fairly strong. You said about Sparkles being very outward focusing and very aware of other dogs' movement. And although he's a collie, he's got a strong eye, that's within him. It's not something at the moment that he can't break away from to come back to me to play. So as long as that's maintained, then I'm going to be happy. As soon as I recognize signs of that just disappearing a little bit, then I'll be changing the environment or changing what I'm doing, upping the rewards, just managing him, perhaps just taking him out on his own a little bit more often, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I took Sparkles out by herself again the other day, and I'm making myself do that more often again at the moment, because if I take all 4 of mine out together, she herds Minnie all the time, right, and then is a bit sticky about recalling away from her. So I don't want her to be more focused on another dog than me. So we're definitely, and out by herself, she's a joy, and she can work in environments with other dogs if she's working. But if I was just on a walk, it would be, unless I was engaging with her, then anything can pop into her head at any time. She's so bright and looking for something to do all of the time. So yeah, I have to be engaged with her so that she doesn't practice, because she's always been one of those puppies that actually she's never hung around. She can be 2 fields away if she wants.
Wow.
Yeah, and I don't like that.
Okay.
So I don't allow that. But even as an 8-week-old puppy, she would leave and go. And usually when they're babies, they have a little zone, don't they? And they come back in. So I've never had one quite as independent as this.
At that age as well. Wow.
Yeah. So she was Little Miss Independent right from the start. So at least it didn't just suddenly happen, which for some it can't it? They hit adolescence and they've gone from this little puppy who's in their little comfort zone with their family, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I'm brave and there's a whole new world, and then it's more of a shock. I had the shock on day 1,
right at the beginning. Yeah.
So have been watching that ever since, really. Yeah, definitely. But I'm hoping, like I say, because we had so many issues, I hate again calling them difficulties or issues, but she wasn't that easy little puppy. So I'm hoping that she's got easier at the moment. So we're hoping that we don't revert or find any other horrible things to throw at us. But if we're recommending for other people, what are the main things that you would suggest through adolescence to help people through any adolescent type behaviors?
So going back and just revisiting the basics. So the cues can suddenly lose value to the dog. I hear a lot from clients, it doesn't even sit anymore. I've lost my recall. And it's just about maybe you need to take out higher value rewards, especially if you're doing that outside. I would want to be strengthening all of the behaviors that I'm looking for in difficult environments at home first. So something as simple with recalls is your dog coming in from the garden when they're called every single time? You know, if there's a bit of hesitancy or you know, I'll come when I'm ready, and we're allowing that. And it's not about making the dog, but if we're losing that connection from the dog at that point and at home without those big distractions around, then the likelihood of that occurring outside is you know, going to be much higher. So just looking at ways to be able to improve that. Relationship and play, you know, often it comes with our border collies back down to play the whole time, doesn't it? So I'm really aware at the moment that Moss has been losing teeth, and although he's still playing, and I've collected, and I don't think I've ever actually found as many teeth, but collected about, well, I don't know how many teeth in this last week. He still wants to play, which is lovely. But we get this kind of spitting out of the toy followed by spitting out of a tooth and back onto the toy again. He's very resilient, but I am aware of trying to make sure that that doesn't destroy any of the toy play at the moment. So it's only if he wants to. But you know, we can adapt play into more kind of, you know, chasing food or whatever it needs to be at the moment. And it's just keeping that bond, making sure, you know, we're the most exciting thing in the environment.
Yeah.
But then also managing the environment. So I talked about perhaps changing the environment with Moss if I start to notice behaviors I don't like. And it might be that, for example, if you're used to walking your dog in a park in a big open area, that actually if that strong collie eye comes in and they're suddenly seeing things at a big distance and they're getting locked on to the dog that's chasing a ball thrower at the other end of the park, then that's actually telling you that what you it's giving you information as in you need to work against that, but maybe not allowing them to be in an environment where they can see that until you've got better focus on you is also going to help as well. And interestingly enough, just you were asking me what I've noticed about him or what I'm wondering will change. In the last week, I've noticed him noticing wildlife. So, and I hadn't before. So just some crows in a field, he watched them fly away. Do you know what? I hadn't seen him really watch things like that before. And then a rabbit this morning as well. And no desire to chase at the moment, but you know, it's there. I'm seeing it. So I'm noticing that he's noticing them, and it was something he wasn't before. And all of that to me is just information. It's things to just go, okay, well, we're going to keep an eye on that. We're going to make sure that the next time he sees those crows, the toy's out, I'm recalling him. The focus is back on me. And then it starts to be that the environment cues the behavior you want from the dog anyway. And we can almost get in there and prevent a problem before it even starts.
Yeah, I think that's a real key thing, especially for our border collies, isn't it? It's the eye can develop at any age through puppyhood or into adolescence. And, you know, Sparkle's had it on day one, she'd already got eye, whereas Moss is getting it now. Some get it in early stages of adolescence. And it can be a bit of a shock when all of a sudden you've got a car chaser and you didn't realize that they were sensitive to cars before because they'd shown no interest. Or like you say, other dogs in the park, wildlife, anything that moves.
Exactly.
So being prepared for that and not expecting our puppies to not change and as they develop. And I think a big one for me as well is, you know, Sparkles is actually quite big already at 7 months, whereas it would be very easy to look at her and go, oh, well, she's nearly adult now, whereas she's still a baby and her brain and her learning. So she's not the finished article at all.
No,
she's still got a lot more learning to do, and not expecting her to have the level of control of an adult dog with more history in their training as well.
Yeah. And it's very easy to forget, but like you said, you know, she looks like an adult dog and she's not. And adolescence is a time of that, the brain being almost rewired. You know, there's so much change going on. Their ability to use self-control is so diminished, and we can expect, I think for someone unprepared, it can just become a real shock. It's like, well, where has that gone? The dog used to be able to do that. And this is where labels like stubbornness or disobedience can come in. Owners, and I understand it completely, but owners become frustrated or disappointed even.
Yeah.
Whereas, like I said, I treat it as information. It's just like, okay, well, that could become an issue. Let's work on it now, and knowing those steps to put in place just to prevent it escalating. But it's also normal. It's also, you know, we can anticipate it, we can work with it, but it's also normal. It's there. We do anticipate it as trainers. We're certainly anticipating it, aren't we? So
yeah, no, and I think that's really important to remember. You know, if you've got a lovely puppy and you can manage the environment through adolescence, you're going to come out the other side of it. It's not going to last forever.
exactly.
So yeah, sometimes we have to go back a step to move forward too, but to not feel like you're failing in that time. You're actually supporting your dog.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exciting. So exciting times ahead with Moss and Sparkles. And thank you so much for coming and sharing. I know last time when we spoke about puppies, you said that you would come back and share when you'd had him for a little while. So it's great to hear that he settled in really well and is being a little dreamboat for you.
He is.
So exciting times ahead. And thank you so much for sharing your story with him.
Thank you, Sarah.